Hello and welcome. I am your host, Jay Jennings, and for the next 30 minutes, we will be reviewing the career of a great horror star and a great actor, Mr. Ferdy Mayne. Ferdy is best known as he played the lead role in The Fearless Vampire Killers, and we will be talking to him right now. Welcome, Mr. Mayne.
How do you do?
The Fear Factory.
Nice to meet you.
So, let's start off right away for the fans who don't know you. The Fearless Vampire Killers has been voted by critics in the last, I think, 20 years as one of the 10 best horror films ever made. And it's shown at film festivals and all over the world, and it's still a favorite of mine. Do you still relish it?
Of course I relish it. I didn't know it was so widely discussed. Thank you very much for telling me. I'm delighted. There aren't many of us left, by the way.
No, there isn't, unfortunately.
There's Alfie is no longer with us. Sharon Tate we know about. And wonderful Jack McCarran is no longer amongst us. I'm still here.
It says that down on the bottom, for those of you who can't see, it says co-starring Ferdy Mayne. Ferdy, we'll talk about The Fearless Vampire Killers, or Dance of the Vampires.
Killers, yeah.
That's right.
Bal des Vampires.
Bal des Vampires in
Paris,
France,
yeah.
Paris. Let's start off where you were actually born. Where is your place of birth?
Well, my place is where they call this film Der Tanz der Vampire. Ich bin ein Deutscher. I was born in Mainz. That is in the Rhineland.
What country is that?
Germany.
Germany, which is ironic because you play a lot of, in your roles, played a lot of German soldiers and...
in my younger days.
In your younger days, they always put on that SS hat, and they, for some reason, why was that, Ferdy?
On me?
Yeah, because some of the films...
I'm bilingual, that's why. I'm not a very typical German type, as types go.
But whenever, like, a sturdy, you know, supreme Nazi soldier came for an audition, you'd get the call, wouldn't you?
No, I didn't. I played marshals in not the Vampire Killers.
Were Eagles there?
Were Eagles there. I played Reichsmarschall von Blankenstein or something like that.
Well, let's move on. Before you started acting, what did you do originally?
I was a schoolboy. I went straight from school to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. I left Germany when I was a little boy. My father was German. He was a German judge who lost his job under the Nazis. And my mother was British-born. So they had the sense to send me over to British relations, and I went to school there.
Okay, and then I heard before you got into acting, you started off in radio, right?
No, that happened
Afterwards?
Become an so-called actor at that time. For the BBC, I did all the anti-Nazi propaganda for many years. I was one of the chief announcers.
Let me ask you a question. Orson Welles was really big in radio at the time. Did you have an opportunity to work with him?
Yes, I worked with him.
And
yes.
what did you do?
We had a repertory company of about 6 people who spoke good English, were able to do accents. And we rehearsed the whole morning to do a Gogol or a Chekhov play, and then His Majesty arrived after lunch.
Was that Orson Welles?
Orson Welles with a big cigar and reeking of brandy.
Ferdy, where's my script?
And he wouldn't even know my name. All that happened was, if this is the microphone, I was here because I rehearsed the whole morning, my part being so near the mic. A hand came quite gently and pushed me back.
Oh.
That was the beginning of my relationship with Orson Welles. And then he stole a girlfriend of mine once upon a time. Anyway, but I love him, and I'm...
Orson, wait a minute, let's just talk about that. Orson Welles stole a girlfriend of Ferdy Mayne. How is that possible? Count von Krolak, how did you lose out?
I wasn't Count von Krolak then.
Oh, okay.
I was a little radio announcer.
Okay, but was it a pleasure to work with him, or...?
Not a pleasure, no. But it was wonderful to watch his technique and his personality and his largesse.
Yeah, right. Let's move on.
Would you like a cup of tea? I'm not the host.
Did you bring me some tea? Or?
I didn't bring it.
That's so kind of you, Ferdy.
Somebody very kindly.
That's a nice suit you got on there, too.
Thank you very much. Have you seen my hanky?
No.
It's the color of your shirt. In case I run out of this hanky, may I use a scissor and cut a piece of your shirt?
Well, this is great. I'm so glad you can join us.
Thank you.
Once again, this is The Fear Factory, and I am Jay Jennings, and where we talk to horror stars and about their careers, and we're so lucky to have Mr. Ferdy Mayne. Ferdinand
Thank you.
Mayne.
I was just going to say something about that. Over there, I'm known as Ferdy Mayne. Here, when I arrived 12 years ago, for some reason or other, I used my proper name, which is Ferdinand. My full name is Ferdinand Philip Mayne.
Well, before you drink that, let's get a little toast to
whom?
To you, actually, to success and, you know, so the legend of the Fearless Vampire Killers lives on forever.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Cheers. It's not blood.
I know you're used to blood and things like that. But anyway, let's move on. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you got your film start. For most of you who are unfamiliar with Mr. Mayne's work, where have you been living, in a cave or on Mars? He began his career, I think you had a small role in a 1943 film where British comedian Arthur Lucan played Old Mother Riley overseas. Is that indeed your first role?
Not a small role. I was the juvenile.
Was that you, the juvenile?
I played Kitty's Portuguese lover.
Is that...
It was the third starring part. My first film.
So you did have a billing role on credits?
Very much so.
Well, that's
yes.
fantastic.
For British National was the company at that time.
You know, Arthur Lucan also made Old Mother Riley Meets the Vampire with Bela Lugosi. And Lugosi's like, what are you doing, Old Mother Riley? So you weren't the first to work the Old Mother Riley series, no.
Little did I know that I would turn into a vampire.
That's right, you both had that in common. That's wonderful, the two vampires. Yeah. Let's talk about some of you. We're going to talk about some of your roles with Ferdy. We're going to talk about some of the directors he has worked with. Let's talk about right off the bat, you had the ultimate character role when you got to play God in Night Train to Terror, which is now available on video. Tell us about that film.
But I asked them not to give my name in the cast.
Is the film that bad, or...?
It was quite terrible, and I don't know how it ever was aired.
Really?
I should never have done it.
Have you seen
However, the gentleman in Variety who seemed to know about it said under that big white goddish, I think, beard, Mr. Ferdinand Mayne hides.
There he is, under that beard.
That wasn't one of my better roles.
No, but that's in the few clips, because when I research a show here on the Fear Factory, I like to take an in-depth look at some of our celebrity guests, and I took a look at that, and I said, Ferdy played God. That's got to be a role to remember. Let's talk about some of the influential directors that you worked with on some landmark films. For example, let's begin with Stanley Kubrick. Ferdy, you made Barry Lyndon with him, which was an almost 4-hour masterpiece that came out in 1975. Tell us about Stanley Kubrick and that film.
What can I say? Kubrick didn't like to meet actors. I wrote to him. I thought other people have written to him. Does he know me? He did know me, and I had a letter back within 24 hours. I know your work, and I admire your work. I think I have something for you. But then I didn't hear for, I think, 8 months. And eventually, because he changes his mind a great deal, and the casting director eventually said, no, he's got another part for you in mind. And I got the part, and we were in Ireland, and I found it an amazing experience to work for him.
How long were you in Ireland? Because I know that took a long time to make.
I played a small part. I was there for 4 long weeks.
Wow.
And very strenuous weeks they were.
Yes, you're one of the British, what were you, one of the brigadier...
I played a British major.
A British major, right. Okay, let's talk about, you worked with John Huston in Freud.
That's right.
Which was the autobiography of Sigmund Freud. How was it working with John Huston? I'm John Huston.
He discovered me in what we call in England a canteen restaurant, and he said he wanted to have this face of mine. And I played a Viennese professor. I can't remember much, except I remember the great leading man, who was, who?
Who, in the movie?
Yeah, who played
Montgomery
Freud?
Clift.
Montgomery Clift, yes. And I was on my knees because of both of them.
Didn't he get into an accident during the making of that film, or is that another film?
Yes. What accident?
Montgomery Clift got into a bad car accident and he was...
No, that was later on.
Okay.
And he never looked the same. His face was completely
heard.
cut, and he had to go and have operations.
Okay, let's move on. You worked with the late Sir Carol Reed, who directed The Third Man in Our Man in Havana.
That's right.
How was it making that film?
Another genius and a friend, and making you feel at home. Whenever he came to a cut, he said, that was wonderful, this was beautiful, great take, let's do it again. And he had this great charm, and you would do anything for him and improve all the time.
And he was a very stylish director, too, wasn't he? I think he's The Third Man and some other films are just shadowy in sewers and on circus Ferris wheels, so it's a very stylish director.
And there was Sir Alec Guinness, of course.
Who was a good friend of yours, isn't he? Or,
Well, yes, he was not a very good friend, but he was a friend.
Oh, okay.
I played a very small part in his very first Hamlet in the theatre with the Old Vic. Tyler
did you?
Guthrie was the famous director.
Did you ever get to work with Sir Laurence Olivier at all?
Yes, I was so nervous. The only other actor I know who made me nervous. I couldn't speak. I couldn't say my lines. Somehow or other I got them out eventually. I don't think I was very popular.
Now we're going to talk to about the low-budget directors. Our last.
Oh, not yet. There are a few better ones.
Oh, okay. All right. A few better.
There's Polanski.
Okay, Polanski in the Fearless.
Yes, and then there's
Killers.
Vaida,
I was going to say.
the great Andrzej Wajda, who made some wonderful films in his life, a Polish director.
Okay, and you worked for Billy Wilder.
I worked for Billy Wilder.
In Fedora.
Yes, I'm doing well. Yes.
Have you seen him recently at all?
No, I'm afraid not. No, no.
Okay. Okay. Let me. William Wyler in Ben-Hur.
William Wyler.
You were in Ben-Hur, which is probably one of the greatest spectacles ever made. I don't know if any of you are aware. Charlton Heston played the lead role.
So I fished him out.
You're the one who fished him out.
I fished him out after the sea battle, and I was assisted. That sounds good. By Jack Hawkins, one of our great
Jack Hawkins
leading character actors.
That's right. And last but not least, let's talk about you worked with Roger Corman on von Richthofen and Brown.
That's correct. I met my son who played Richthofen. I met him a few weeks ago.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How was that working on a really tight schedule and a budget and working at a fast pace? Because I know that's how Roger Corman works. How was it?
We weren't aware of it.
Really? Because it's that comfortable an atmosphere?
With him, it was enormously comfortable, yes.
Well, that's great. Let's move on. Let's talk about your good friend Christopher Lee. You worked with him on Howling 2 and
Howling 2, several other films. One film he played Jesus Christ, and I played a theatrical manager, and the film was never seen, just the two of us, and the director committed suicide, not because of the film.
Are you sure about that? Yeah.
It's not.
What about, and that was also, you got to work with sexpot Sybil Danning.
Yes,
How was Sybil? Was she
I actually never met her. That was in Prague, yes. We made that in Czechoslovakia, where I've worked many times as a vampire.
You also, I want most of you fans, still I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag. Ferdy's been in countless of genre films, not only horror, but stuff like the Black Stallion
Returns.
Black Stallion Returns, and the Conan Destroyer movies with Jack Palance and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The Formula.
And The Formula with Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando and George C.
So, I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, we need a 3-hour...
I've been in 140
140 movies. I think I'm going to write a book on you, Ferdy Mayne.
Would you?
I will, and you'll have to
saves
okay
me
it.
from writing.
You know, we'll work together, because I'm still honored to have you here on
Thank you.
The Fear Factory. Let's talk about some of your TV appearances. You appeared on The Avengers with Patrick
Yes.
McNee and Diana Rigg twice.
Twice. In an invalid chair at once.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were just rolled around in
And
the...
I put somebody under some Chinese torture.
Yes, you did.
Drops of water.
I think that was called Legacy of
Drops
Death.
tea. Do you know more about it than I do?
Well, how was it working with Patrick McNee and Diana Rigg?
Hilarious, hilarious. I've worked with him many times since. With her, I unfortunately never have. I know her well. She's a dream of an actress.
Oh, let's move on. You made some other TV appearances. You were on One Step Beyond, which is, I know some of you...
John Newman.
John Newman don't know what the show was. It was like pre-Twilight Zone, pre-Night Gallery. It was like one of the first anthologies.
He asked me to rewrite a scene.
That's right, and you were in one called Nightmare, where you keep painting the same woman's face over and over again, and she haunts you. Do you remember anything, or working with John Newman about that?
No, I played an antique dealer, that's all I remember.
An antique dealer, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Okay.
And he came along and he said, how do you like that speech you have? And I said, I don't like it. And he tore it up and he said, you rewrite it. And I rewrote it, and then he said, well, let's shoot it. And I said, but I've got to learn it first. He said, but you know it, you've just written it. And he gave me so much confidence and relaxation. I knew it, of course I did.
Okay, no.
So the personality of a director, from that point of view, is so important if he is within himself relaxed. Not many of them.
So what do you prefer, TV or movies?
Movies.
Because that's the
Every time
the big
movies.
cameras and the lights and the pre-production.
It's like being a heavyweight. You're not under that tremendous pressure. Finish on Friday night,
Yeah.
or you get shot.
That's right.
And there is very little laughter in TV because there simply is not time enough. People are learning their lines, and I think all the big stars earn every cent they're getting because it's such.
I'm too excited. I gotta cut right to this. We're going to talk about probably one of my favorite horror films of all time, and basically, why you are who you are. Ferdy, Count von Krolock, Dance of the Vampires. You shot that in the Swiss Alps, right?
In the Dolomites.
Dolomites, as well as some other places. If we can get a shot of the poster once again. I think this is a great poster as well. This is you, and this is one of the, I don't know if you know this, Freddie, one of the more better selling posters. We're not here to sell it, but I'm just going to say the artwork and your teeth and the cape, and of course the late Sharon Tate.
They were very expensive.
You still have those teeth?
Yes, somewhere amongst my belongings.
There's Sharon Tate, and the soap suds just barely cover her breasts. And then you have also yourself down here.
Is that me?
Yourself chasing around
Yes, chasing them.
a whole bunch of people?
Look at this delicious lady. She's still alive and kicking and lives in Hollywood.
For most of you can't see, there's another delicious, a lot of young models in this movie besides Sharon Tate. And they're just running around in the nude, but Polanski shot it so wonderfully and so artistically with the background of vampires, and it was comedy. It was a total black comedy, takeoff on the vampire legend.
It was a mixture of black comedy and a fairy tale. And I don't think many people caught on to the fact that that is a fairy tale which was told.
And
by
indeed,
us.
the beginning I heard of the film was cut, like the 10-minute prologue with the credits, opening credits, because it was a little bit too risque for British or American audiences.
Well, Polanski didn't get on with the producer, and so they had both the American cut and the British edition.
For those of you who don't know, because I'm a big buff, horror buff on these things, at the beginning had, I think, some naked silhouettes in the background or whatever, and instead it's just bats flying around, right, Ferdy? And
600.
600 bats while the credits roll. We had something similar to that when I hosted a Halloween show, but this is the Fear Factory. Let's move along talking about...
By the way,
what?
I think we made history in that film because Polanski asked me to be the voiceover at the beginning, the prologue and the epilogue.
Yeah.
Not in character, but just as a narrator.
Did they use it at all?
Oh yes, certainly. You hear it whenever you see the
Oh, I
film.
totally didn't even see
Be aware of it,
that.
it's my voice.
I'm going to look for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for that. How was it? How many months did you spend up in that cold mountain area?
Oh, that was a short time only, because we built the whole set again at MGM Studios, which is no longer there in London. I was there just a week, and the whole job took about 5 months, I think.
5 months?
5 hilarious, 4 months, I can't remember, it's so long ago.
What do you recall about Roman Polanski as a director, and in accordance to his relationship with Sharon Tate? Did they work together well on the set?
Yes, because there was a little relationship budding and blooming and coming to fruition eventually.
Oh, that's right. Let me restate that. So they weren't really married yet, were they?
No, of course
That's right.
not.
So they really...
She asked me in the car, which fetched us both to the studios, she said, "Do help me. I want that man. I want to marry that man." And we went out, the three of us, and I went to the wedding, and they were a wonderful couple.
For those of you who don't know, Sharon Tate was tragically murdered by the Manson clan. Let's move on. You made a movie called The Vampire Happening, which is a takeoff of actually The Vampire Killers, and it was rarely seen out here. The poster is similar to this, but instead Ferdy's in a helicopter. You're in like your own Batcopter.
Coming from the East, coming from communist countries.
That's right, and you fly over graveyards. And it's real. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's really weird. And
it's very weird. It wasn't a good picture. But Freddie Francis made it, who is a very great cinematographer. It had some moments in it. The script wasn't as clever as this one.
Okay, let's move on from that film to another one, which is a favorite of mine, where you get to actually play yourself, a parody of yourself, where you played the horror star, where a horror actor who I think goes nuts because no one can really appreciate...
Frightmare.
Frightmare, I'm sorry.
It's called now.
They retitled it to Frightmare, and you can't appreciate any young kids making fun of you. And I think you go a little bonkers and actually become your character, and you know, the Count is here?
I wish to punish them.
You want to punish them?
Yes.
But the movie does take place on a film set, so it's kind of like a film within a film.
Well, no, the beginning was just the story of me being a very unsuccessful elderly character actor who has played and interpreted many vampires, and he no longer finds his marks, and he makes mistakes with his dialogue.
Your name was Conrad Ragzoff.
Conrad Ragzoff. So that's how it starts.
And then you just take your revenge on the
kids who treat me badly, because I die and I prepare everything for my after death, and the kids get me out of my coffin and bring me back as a corpse into their house.
So do you appreciate this type of horror film appearing as kind of, I don't know, intelligent slasher film, or would you prefer the more appearing in the more classy horror films like they had that Universal produced in the 30s and 40s? If you had your preference.
Well, if I'm offered a classy one, I prefer a classy one, obviously, because there's more subtlety to it and it gives me more opportunities to shine.
That you have. And besides the horror star, you also played recently in Monsters. I don't know, so recently.
Well, that was fun.
You got to play an old man in jail
Yes.
who I think tricks another convict, and you become a monster.
What happens is I'm a dear old man in a little Mexican village in a prison, and eventually, to cut the long story short, I turn into green slime when I wish to consume my poor neighbors.
That's right. In the end, you're the surprise. You're the killer, aren't you?
I'm the killer, yes. So it's really a horrid story.
It is.
But it was brilliantly written, brilliantly directed.
It shocked me at the end. I had no clue you were going to ooze out right at that guy.
Just the best one of the whole series.
It was one of them. It really was. Let's talk about your other TV work. See, a lot of you people who are watching right now are unfamiliar with Ferdy's work. He's done a lot of films, a lot of TV work, especially British stuff.
Then I worked with Roger Moore many times.
That's right, when he was the Saint.
Remember
the music? That's why I watched the show. And that little Cupid arrow would appear above him. Let's talk about some of your heavy roles. As I said, you appear as a Nazi commander or soldier, SS person, or you're an Arab leader of a harem, or you always play like some bad guy with the mustache and the goatee. I will kidnap you and keep you as my slave.
All very smooth nightclub owners.
Oh, smooth nightclub owners.
They don't do the dirty deed themselves. They have all their
You have your henchmen take care of it for you.
Of course.
Do you like playing those kind of villainous roles?
Yes, I did anyway, but now, look at me.
You can still play a good
more
role.
mildish-looking man. I'm a professor, I'm a father, I'm an analyst, I'm a duke, I'm an ambassador.
But you can still reach over and just choke me, and just like that, and you can become a killer old man, right?
I could.
Okay,
yeah.
just kidding. Just kidding. Let's talk about one more film before we show some pictures here. A little bit of your career, the Fear Factory Hall of Fame, so to speak. You were in the Black Stallion Returns, which was produced by Francis Ford Coppola.
Correct.
Was he on the set at all?
Yes, he came a few times. Yes, I think Morocco was too hot for him and too unhealthy. We all had the most beastly diseases, because we worked 12 hours drive away from the Atlas Mountain. We were literally in the Sahara.
Right. Right.
The only one who never got ill, ever, was the little boy.
That's right. But I never liked the little kid. He seemed always bratty and whining. So when you come here, little boy, and you grabbed him and you threw him on the horse or the carriage.
Well, I was a father figure. And I owned the great horse.
That's right, you owned it.
The horse is still alive,
At least
worth millions.
According to your own law, you owned it, right, in the film.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the career. I'm just going to hold these up and you make a quick little comment. This is a young Ferdy Mayne right here. What's this taken from?
Oh, my God. Some early... Ah, yes.
A
this
British
is
film?
Mother Riley.
Is this the old Mother Riley
when I was
overseas?
the Portuguese lover.
Was it?
Yes, of course.
Okay, and we're going to jump right to this one. Here is the one you're known for, the Fearless Vampire Killers.
It's a very rare photograph.
You're sticking your teeth into gray. Here, hold this under yourself so we can...
Here we are. This was actually... What is this here?
That's granite, I think, from a tomb.
No.
You can hold it up in
what you wash yourself
hold
with.
it a little bit, yeah.
Are you all right now?
Yeah, there
See
you
it?
go. That's great. I mean, there I am with Count von Krolak, Conrad Ragzoff.
That's right.
And you look devilish with those devilish eyes.
I was.
But you had fun working on that film, didn't you?
Great fun, yes. I would do it again.
Here's another great vampire takeoff film he made with Peter Cushing, and this is The Vampire Lovers. This is you leaning over, and then right behind you is Peter Cushing. How was it working with Peter Cushing?
A dream. I worked with Peter many times. I was with him in a play, a Molière play in London, when he was a juvenile. And I worked with him in a BBC series. And I worked with him in this, and I worked with him in another very stylish period film. So we know each other well.
I'm glad.
And bless him.
He's a favorite of mine as well as you are, of course.
Beautiful man, thank you.
Here is where you appeared as Dracula on stage.
That's right. It was
Wow.
an American play. And we toured the world. By that time, I was already white-haired.
Here you are from the role as that rich Arab sheik in The Black Stallion Returns. King. You were a king. Look a little bit like Sean Connery there from The Man Who Would Be King.
I'm a bit older than Sean Connery.
Just a tad, huh?
Just a tad. Yeah.
And let's take another look as a role that
That was my first series.
Right here?
In Hollywood.
Let's take a look at it.
It was called The Pirates. It was made by Howard Koch and Ken Anakin directing.
This is the role that you basically got a lot to play, the villainous chic role.
Yes, I suppose so. It influenced my career.
And then here you are being made up. Is this for the, what's this for exactly?
The Howling, not Howling.
Yeah, Howling.
Howling
2.
2, yes, in Prague. It took 7 hours to put it on and 2 hours to take it off.
And last but not least, let's take a look at your appearance on Cagney and Lacey. There's Sharon Gless in the background.
Albert Grand. It was a very popular. I appeared twice or 3 times. They wanted to write it into the series, but after all, Albert Grand had spent 25 years in prison, so one couldn't have him as a regular.
Yes, well, before we must end here on The Fear Factory,
yes.
I want to show you here, there's this book by Ivan Butler that came out in the early 70s called Horror in the Cinema. Right there is Vincent Price on the cover from Mask of the Red Death. He writes all about horror films, he gives a little analysis, but on the back is you, Ferdy, from the Fearless Vampire Killers with Sharon Tate while she's in the bathtub. This is on the back of his book. Why don't you take a look at that?
What does it say about me?
Well, inside, let's...
That, by the way, is on you know, it's for sale now.
As a lobby card, or...
No, the
poster.
Tape
Oh, the video.
The videos of tape.
Oh,
that
yes.
is on the...
Letterboxed, you know, where it's black and in the middle, like the professional theater. Let me find what it says here for the Fearless Vampire Killers.
I'd love to hear it.
And so you never heard me read this before,
No.
have you?
No.
Okay.
It's a surprise.
Right here on The Fear Factory, I will read what Ivan Butler, a great writer and critic from the 70s who's since deceased, wrote of Dance of the Vampires. He wrote, Dance of the Vampires, intensively dismissed in some quarters as a mere attempt to parody the vampire genre. This affectionate, visual, beautiful, as we can show the poster, subtle and unfailingly entertaining film has not, in England at any rate, had the success it deserves. Okay, now let's show the poster here. Ferdy Mayne is the best vampire count yet. And even at the level of a shocker, there have been very few chilling moments than his descent through the skylight to gorge on the bathing Miss Tate.
Ooh.
So the actual dance is a brilliant
That
turn
was
of
it.
force.
That was the shot.
Right here, let's see exactly what they're talking about. This is the scene where he wrote about, well, better than Lugosi, better than Christopher Lee. Ferdy, that's quite an honor, I think.
Thank you.
But anyway, I would like to thank you so much for coming down and talking to us about your career.
Thank you for having me here.
I am Jay Jennings.